Good afternoon, noon. I'm Heather Spaulding, editor of the Journal, and I am flying solo for this What's Happening Around Here. Jeff is covering something else today, so we look forward to his story when he gets back. But in the meantime, I am here with Eva Schultz with Friends of the San Juans. She's the director, and Tina Whitman, you are the science director. Yeah. So we will be talking about what they have been up to. And Eva, let's start with you. How long have you been with Friends now?
Thanks, Heather. Really fun to be here at CNL2, and especially to be with you because I follow your work and writing all the time.
Yay.
I am new to the islands, but not new in loving this special place. My family is from Birch Bay and Blaine, and so I just recently hailed from Bellingham, Washington.
Nice.
And I've been here for just over 1 year, so that's an important mark. I've been listening, I've been engaging, I've been taking every opportunity I can to learn more about this special place.
Yeah. Excellent. And Tina, you've been with Friends for a while, and you are from Orcas.
Yeah, so I moved to Orcas with my husband and now my son back in 2001, and I've been with Friends of the San Juans as science director since 2002.
Yeah, been a while. What has some of your experience over the last year kind of shown you? What have you learned?
Yeah, well, I think today's a great example. I pulled up here to this amazing new live TV live stream that we get to experience to say hi to League of Women Voters who are engaging people to vote. So I brought my big mug here, and let's see where the camera is. You can zoom in. I voted. And this community is active. Islanders are engaged. They want to be a part of determining what our future is. And that's why I love our mission with Friends of the San Juans. It's about protecting the San Juan Islands in Salish Sea. And we also know that there's a lot at stake. And 45 years ago, our founders who said we need to influence how we experience and protect the islands, they came together to create this organization, and we continue to do that. It's a majority woman-led organization. We've got two great men on our team, but we're a team of professional women that have families, that have been navigating ferries. I was stuck on Orcas Island after a work event on Sunday, so had an overnight unexpectedly and finally made my way back yesterday. But this community is engaged.
For sure. Now, Tina, you've been working with a lot of property owners this whole time as science director. What are you hearing from them? What have you learned from them?
Yeah, so Heather, my focus is really on our shorelines, and it's really what makes the San Juan Islands unique. You know, we're a community of islands, and we have more shoreline than any other county in the lower 48. And so as part of that work, doing our research or out doing our restoration and our protection projects, we're engaging with public and private waterfront property owners. And people are, passionate about it. I mean, we live in this amazing special place. We support this amazing ecosystem that we all call home, our salmon, our forage fish, our southern resident orca. But there's also real challenges, right? We've got tourism, development, changing climate, rising sea levels. So a lot of our work, again, as Eva talked about, is really focusing on protection, and we do that through science and mapping and habitat restoration, and then engaging with people. We do landowner workshops, we do workshops with contractors, with realtors, we engage in the schools, and we'll help folks if they want to do a protection or a restoration project, actually take action on their land and be part of the solution for helping restore our marine ecosystem.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to that. I've got questions. But that all seems like a great project. And I think one of the cool things about it is it's working with the landowners themselves and having them be involved and have a stake in their own property. But anyway, what are some top concerns environmentally on the islands? What are red flags that you're seeing that need to be dealt with that the community should be aware of?
Well, I talked about voting today and its importance, right? Primary vote, just to be clear, if you haven't voted yet, do, because we need to have attentiveness to our resources. Our land bank, as you know, is up for renewal in November, so that will be highly consequential. And the 144 people that came to the shoreline property owner workshops that Tina just referenced, they said,
Just this
we
spring.
want to know what it looks like for us to be protectors of our own property that we steward. So that's a big deal. I attended all three to kind of get a feel on Orcas, San Juan, and Lopez for what people were saying. And the rooms were packed, 3 hours, no one left early. We even did an extra excursion afterwards to a shoreline to look at the different ways people are protecting or, unfortunately, putting hard armoring on their shoreline and what that does to habitat. In fact, how it completely debilitates all habitat when that happens. And it's really no longer needed. It's not the science that will protect a homeowner from rising sea level. And so we were able to really think with coastal geologists who we bring. We have $4,000 worth of a free package to any homeowner on the shoreline that wants to do the right thing and learn about their property so they can have the best kind of habitat resilience and protection long term for both their family and the natural habitat. So that's an exciting program that we've been doing, and we have some hot off the press news related to shoreline resiliency and related to our country and how we're leveraging more capacity to have the right science that we deploy into action every day, whether you're those 144 shoreline property owners or anyone living in our island communities, because whether land or sea, that intricate balance between the two is where we find ourselves in our islands. Do you want to tell the big news? I don't know, Heather, are you ready for the announcement?
I'm ready.
We didn't tell you we had an announcement. This is your surprise.
Yeah, well, it
that's
just
awesome.
went live yesterday. And Friends is part of, so there was 19 national awards made for climate resiliency grants. Washington State was awarded one of those 19. So Washington State is getting $74 million to help with coastal communities, help with their resiliency. And Friends is really honored. We're a small part of that project, working here in San Juan County with the Samish Indian Nation, and we'll be really looking at how do we get our community climate ready for our future. As we know, as a community of islands, we're vulnerable, right? We're thinking about climate. We've got increased storm impacts, we've got rising sea level rise, or rising sea levels, and then also thinking about things like water availability. So this funding that we've leveraged for our community, helping us in partnership with the tribes and Friends, will be applying science to what we know about these shorelines, and also really using the tools, right, of planning, of helping people really think about how do we want our community to look and be resilient into the future.
And can we just emphasize those dollars? I think it's significant, right? I mean,
It is
it's not chump
significant.
change. How much again? $500,000.
Yeah, so $500,000 coming to the San Juan County project, and then again, Washington's grant proposal was in a competitive process. Again, only 19 were awarded across the country, and there's $74 million coming to our state. So some going to the outer coast, some going down sound, and then again, $500,000 of that coming to our community, thinking about climate resiliency. And that's again one of those challenges, and it's also where we need to really think about science and also engaging the community and thinking about solutions.
Will that, for your part, will that go toward educating property owners and working with property owners? Is that part of?
Yeah, so this specific proposal is really working with the Samish Indian Nation and taking what we know about with climate science, habitat science, science on protecting cultural values and resources, so medicinal foods, special places, and really thinking about how do we have kind of an action plan around that, as well as the community engagement piece. And it is, again, a community of kind of all of shorelines, all of us, whether we're shoreline property owners or not, what we do affects the marine environment. So it's really a whole community kind of project, but it is focused on those 400 plus miles of marine shoreline.
Gotcha.
So Friends of the San Juans is working to bring people together, entities, groups. We work regularly with tribes and really following their leadership. And $500,000 500,000 is significant, but it's just a small example of what we're trying to leverage for our island communities to be in partnership for those larger restoration projects that employ local contractors, for example. I don't know, Heather, if you saw that $7 million is what we have brought to local contractors to do the work of restoring natural habitat. So that's local jobs, that is being at the forefront of how we can find science-based solutions and deploy them into action, not just around policy and the kind of system change we need, but actual hard projects on the ground that really matter to not just people, but our species.
When you restore a shoreline, how quickly do you see results?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in many cases, a lot of what we're doing is sort of removing things that are no longer necessary. So there's a lot of outdated or derelict infrastructure out there. And sometimes it's immediate. You know, we took out, was a project on Blind Bay on Shaw Island, for example, a few years ago. That's one of our hot spots for forage fish, which are the little fish that the salmon eat. And then, of course, our salmon are supporting our southern resident orca. Within 2 weeks later, after having removed sort of the large rock bulkhead armoring, however, you know, people have different words for it, revetment, shoreline armoring. After removing that and restoring the native beach below, 2 weeks later we had forage fish actually. They would come up at high tide and lay their eggs on those beaches. So in some cases it's not quite that immediate, but again, restoring these processes, we're taking out culverts, moving unnecessary roads. We just had a big project up on Susha with Washington State Parks where we help them improve their climate resiliency for the park to move their infrastructure back, but that also reconnected a coastal wetland and unburied a forage fish spawning beach. So there's sort of the win-win. Again, we work with property owners, whether they're tribal owners, state parks, county, private property owners, thinking about what are those multiple objectives, right? How do we improve resiliency, help people protect their investment and their property and what they love about it, and also thinking about the habitat.
We're so lucky that Tina's been with us for 23 years.
Yeah.
And relocating a road is no big, no little
a whole
undertaking.
road.
A whole road. And those are some of the important conversations we need to be engaging community members around.
All right, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll pick their thoughts a little bit about the restructuring of our permit center and some other things, and we will also be talking about what islanders themselves can do.
Great.
Great, thanks, Heather.
This is one of the variations from Tchaikovsky's piece Rococo Variations.
And we are back with Tina and Eva. What are your thoughts about the restructuring of the DCD?
Yeah, so that's a surprise, I think, all the way around.
Yeah.
And I have to say, coming in from other communities, I have a keen wow response when I see the incredible transition that has happened with the Department of Community Development. I think it's highly concerning, and everyone knows it. And the fact that we aren't retaining our staff over time means there is no learning curve, and there's an up and down reality. And so no wonder people are frustrated with permits not being advanced or renewed, and no wonder there's complaints. We have to retain the learned experience within government in order for it to work. And we have had, I think, about 21 years, in the last 21 years, about 19 directors of the Department of Community Development. That is unheard of. We are not going to be able to recruit talent if we don't recognize it's going to take some time to keep people in their roles. And we also need performance, right? We need to consistently and objectively enforce our codes. We look at our community as a collective agreement. When we have a comprehensive plan and we have codes in place, that's us as community saying, this is what we've agreed to hold one another accountable to. That's how we come up with codes. That's how we come up with our permitting process. And if we don't have adequate resources devoted to that and consistency in those departments, we're just not going to be able to help anyone move forward their permitting processes. So we've got to have permanence and sustainability within our ability to actualize how decisions are made. And we're excited about the new county administrator. That's a great move, and we have new leadership that will be coming once we have this election coming up in November, and there's consequential decisions on the ballot. We don't take any position on elected leaders, who they are, or candidates for that matter, but we do take positions on issues. So stay tuned, Heather. We'll have a protector platform coming to you soon. We'll make sure you get it first, along with Jeff and CML2, because that protector platform outlines exactly what we have learned based on the science, the legal, and the educational needs within our community will be key for us to protect our island communities, our island resources, and to protect our natural environment.
Now, Tina, you've worked with the county a lot in mapping the shoreline and that kind of thing. Do you feel like with this transition, I'm trying to think about how to phrase this in a way that makes sense. Do you feel like this is a move that will be helpful for you and able to work with the county, this kind of streamlining? Or
yeah, I guess, I echo Eva's concern about sort of this lack of institutional knowledge, this lack of understanding. And again, it's in a transition period here, right? We've had an interim director for over a year. We've had functionally zero code enforcement for a few years. And again, sort of that collective agreement, right? Planning is a tool. We have rules about everything. We have rules about how fast you drive and how far from a driveway you are, and from protecting shorelines, and their safety and their environmental rules. And so I think it's really an open question right now of how I do really worry about the lack of institutional knowledge. And there's going to be individual permit review. My understanding is that's going to all be outsourced by consultants. So there's a chance there, right, that those individual projects, maybe those can be, right, we want consistent, fair, and then also we want to meet our objectives, right? We want to make sure that we have a really special environment here in the San Juans, and it's what drives our economy here in San Juan County as well. It's not sort of just this extra fluffy thing, right? Our economy is based on a healthy environment. And so there's opportunity maybe for those consultants to do those individual projects where what I'm worried about though is the bigger things, thinking about climate. We've got hard decisions to make, right? We might be moving some roads, those sorts of things. So where's that how does a consultant that's not here, doesn't know the differences between all the islands, doesn't know those special places, how do they see what's the big issue that should be on our radar versus the sort of processing the individual permits, right? So there's sort of the individuals, and then there's the what's bigger than the sum of the individuals. So I do worry that we're going to potentially miss some of those bigger things in sort of focusing so much on the individual